Do you think the Nvidia RTX 4080 is expensive? Well, yes, so does Nvidia. Nvidia is looking to cut the cost of the GPU itself that it sells to the board partners. This is going to do two huge things for the price. That's why you may want to watch this. This is stuff that you may not know. It's going to affect first you, the consumer, and then the AIB partners, which we know always struggle with Nvidia and very thin profit margins. So let's talk about what's happening here. Nvidia looking to lower the price of the 4080. They're going to do some changes on the GPU itself, the circuit board. They're going to try to save some cost on. And if you guys like GPU content like this, remember to subscribe and smash that like button. Help us reach 100,000 subscribers before the end of the year. They're going to try to lower costs by just using a different circuit, a different design for the GPU itself, which should be cheaper to manufacture. Now, this does not mean that they're changing any of the specifications. It should still be pretty much the same. I guess they just had some stuff in the original design of the 4080 that's really not needed at all. I mean, the other day I was even watching a video, Gamers Nexus, and they had, of course, the famous Kingpin on. He always designs really awesome GPUs with VGA, and he mentioned that the power connector on the 4090s should have been in front of the card. On the side doesn't make as much sense. So you can see there's a lot of space for improvement on the PCB and the GPUs themselves, and I'm sure with Nvidia seeing that sales are not that great at $1199 for the 4080, they need to figure something out, and I'm sure the board partners, and this is where the pricing is going to start to affect you. Now, there are $1199 4080s all the way up to $1549. Let's say, theoretically, if this board design is cheaper, Nvidia is now going to sell that GPU to somebody like, let's give the extreme example, Asus. They're going to sell it to them, and Asus would turn that into a Strix or a TUF. So let's say instead of it being a $1399 4080 TUF, now they're getting a cheaper circuit board, so the GPU cost is cheaper in general, and you would think that maybe they would lower the GPU price to like $1299 or something like that for that particular model, or maybe we might even see under MSRP pricing. So instead of $1199, maybe a cheaper GPU means that they can lower that price, or worst case, they can at least have more GPUs closer to the MSRP. I mentioned this the other day. When you're looking for a 4080, yes, they're definitely in stock, but it's not as common to find them for MSRP. The only one I've seen really is the Founders Edition, which is still in stock at Best Buy, but most other copies, like on Newegg, are going to be above MSRP, so maybe this cheaper GPU can actually help get that price down. I mean, if you want to play devil's advocate, you could say, oh, Nvidia may make the GPU itself cheaper and cheaper to board partners, but they're going to keep the price the same for the consumer. Sure, that's a possibility if the GPU was selling. The problem is the GPUs aren't moving at all, so they need to lower the price for the consumer. They can keep it at the price that it is now, but they're not going to sell them, even if they're, technically putting less money into them and they have a bigger profit margin because of that. It still doesn't mean they're going to get that money back if they don't move the GPUs off the shelves. So I do think that the end goal here is first to lower the price of all higher priced 4080s. That means the models that are like $1,300, $1,400, try to lower those as close as possible to MSRP. If we're going to see them lower than MSRP, I mean, that's really going to depend a lot. If the market isn't doing that great, you can definitely see Nvidia start to lower the price. I mean, I've seen a lot of retailers like Best Buy. I just checked at like a 4070 Ti price. They are already being discounted. Sometimes it's only like $10 to $20, but that means that first, they're not selling at all to need this discount, and the GPU just came out in January, like this month. It's not like we're talking about a product that's been sitting on the shelves for months. So that means going forward, they're just going to have bigger and bigger price reductions. And the 4080 also, I think, are going to have more discounts as time goes on. And because of the new way that Nvidia is manufacturing them, that's going to give it even more of a reason to reduce the price. So at first, it's probably Nvidia with their board partners. It's going to make them a little happier to have maybe a little bit better profit margin. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to lower that price to the consumer. So they're probably profit margin may actually get worse or stay the same because the GPUs are simply not moving. The 4080, unfortunately, is just way too expensive. We talked about this the other day. The 3080 10 gigabyte $699 was absolutely fair for that GPU, but Nvidia really raised the price, not with the 4080, but with the 3080 12 gigabyte. They really snuck it in the middle of all of the GPU shortages. The only reason for that GPU to exist was not to give you two more extra gigabytes of VRAM, but it was simply to change the price class of the 80 series GPUs from $699 to basically what was over $1,200. But now they can't hide beneath sort of the crypto mining cloud and the GPU shortage. There's not that umbrella to hide under anymore. GPU sales are really plummeting. Nvidia sales are really doing terribly in the gaming sector. You don't even have to take my word for it or any analyst or anything like that. Look at your local stores and see what's happening with the pricing. Even in Europe, pricing has gone down. Remember this? They went down about 5%. And of course, some of that will be tied to the currency fluctuations. But overall, people from other countries outside of the US tell me that often many of these GPUs are in stock and they're much, much more expensive. I know to you guys, when I say, oh, $799 for a 4070 Ti is a terrible price, for the American viewers, they're like, yeah, that's absolutely true. But sometimes viewers in other countries are used to paying a huge markup for these GPUs. You're talking about that same GPU being maybe $900 or $1,000 plus. So I guess it makes sense when other countries hear the American audience complain about pricing, theirs is just so much higher, and that's really unfair as well. It'd be nice if the prices were low across every single country, but unfortunately, due to different, laws and taxes and imports, that just happens to be a reality, as well as, different, economic levels in each country. But I definitely hear you. I know that in other countries, some of these GPUs like 4090s have been in stock, and that's because nobody wants to pay really the high price that they are. In America, it's a little bit different. 4090s have been, up till today sold out because the pricing, while expensive, is the cheapest here compared to anywhere else in the world. So I don't think Nvidia really plans to lower pricing on the 4090 at all. And the 4070 Ti, I mean, they kind of lowered the price already. Remember, this was supposed to be a 4080 12 gigabyte. At least that move by Nvidia when they canceled that and turned it into a 4070 12 gigabyte 4070 Ti, that kind of shows you that at least they're willing to adapt and change, even to save face a little bit. Even though their first move was incorrect, they then switched over to the 4070 Ti at 12 gigabyte $799, and it's still way too high because they're not selling, so they may have to pivot once again. I think maybe the pivot point may be for the 4070. You would think that logically a 4070 should cost $699 compared to the $799 pricing of the 4070 Ti. We don't want it to cost that because it's going to be a really, sort of broken down, pared down 4070 Ti. It's not going to be nearly as good. And the 4070 Ti is already really limited in some cases. Like the memory bus is really low compared to what a 70 class GPU should be. So 4070 may be a little bit limited in its performance. So at $699, are people going to buy it? I don't know. I think that's really where Nvidia should make a change. And I really do think that's around the level that Nvidia should make a drastic change and not follow the historical footprint of what they've been doing the last year or two. Don't make it $699. It's going to have a hard time selling, especially a 4070, which is a mid-range GPU. You're pricing it like basically a 1080 Ti used to be. I think $599 is really what we have to see here. $200 under the 4070 Ti likely means that nobody's going to buy the 4070 Ti after a 4070 comes out. So they're going to be forced to lower the price of that 4070 Ti. That should be $699. And then the 4070, $599. I think those like $100 increments from last generation, people understand. They're going to be willing to stomach them a lot easier than like a $200 increase, which people are not going to like. Of course, we would all like it to be at least the original price before, but remember, even a 2070 was $499 already. So if you're paying $599 for a 4070 after years and years, and theoretically it's going to be a very good GPU, probably at least as good as maybe something like a 3080 Ti level or something like that. So definitely not too bad, but price to performance has really taken a huge hit, and Nvidia is going to have to make that other adjustment on the 4070. That's another GPU that they're using maybe different type of designs on the circuit on the PCB to try to get that cost down, much like the 4080, which right now is definitely the most overpriced GPU on the market. 4090 is expensive, but at least you're getting the performance. You've heard that story. The 4070 Ti, it's overpriced, but maybe by like $100, $200 at most if you really want to push it back to the original MSRP of that 3070 Ti. Now, the 4080 is definitely hundreds of dollars way too expensive. I think if it came down to $999, I think a lot more people would buy it. I mean, look at the proof. Remember a few weeks ago, there was that Best Buy discount code at $1079, which was the price of the Founders Edition for the 4080. So you're talking about $120 cheaper than the MSRP. A lot of people said, you know what, with all the AMD problems going on, maybe they're just rather, spend a little extra and buy that GPU. And it seems like a lot of people did, from what I read on my own comments, from reading on Reddit and people that actually went and bought the GPU. That seemed like the breaking point. $1,200 too much, but maybe $1,079 was okay. So my theory is that at $999, the 4080 would probably sell out, and it would be reasonably priced at that point for what it is. Then you can argue if it should be cheaper or not, but at least $999, under $1,000, you could say it's going to be the most reasonable high-end GPU, and at least it matches the 7900 XTX, which, remember, 7900 XTX at $999. If you can get away from the fact that it's already expensive, it's a fairly decent value for the performance you're getting compared to the rest of the market. I mean, sometimes it's almost as good as a 4090 in traditional rasterization, and it beats a 4080 on average pretty readily, and even the ray tracing performance isn't that bad on the XTX. Then of course, you just have to overlook some of the AMD driver issues and maybe some of the cooler issues they had only on the reference models, not to blow it out of proportion. So 7900 XTX at $999, if you can find it for that. I mean, I would probably take that over a $1,200 4080, to be honest, but at the same price, if they're both comparable, I'm not too sure if I would go for the 4080 or the 7900 XTX. Let me know down below which one you would go for at the same price. I mean, you're still getting a little bit better rasterization on the XTX at $999, but 4080 will give you ray tracing a little bit better. It's going to give you DLSS 3.0 if you play like Flight Simulator, or I've been playing the Plague Tale Requiem, and that actually works really well in that, in these type of like single player games where you don't need the fastest latency, even though Nvidia Reflex does help a little bit with the latency. If you're going to play a competitive game like maybe Call of Duty, you're better off maybe going towards the AMD GPUs. But that just shows you the pricing stagnation on the market, especially at the high end. And we haven't even begun to talk about the 4070 and below and the effect that's going to have on consumers and the GPU market in general. But in conclusion, there could be a step in the right direction with Nvidia reducing pricing of the 4080 itself. If they can start to lower that price, that's going to affect the entire product stack below that and be more competitive with AMD as well. So this is definitely a step in the right direction, if that price decrease eventually translates to consumers getting the GPU cheaper. It may take a few months, but I don't really think they have any other way to go about this. They have to reduce the price because nobody is buying. Just like the 3090 Ti saw the price decrease rapidly after its release, I think the same is going to happen this year with the 4080 eventually, because it's still sitting on the shelves. Even the Founders Edition isn't moving, and that's unusual for the last few years. All right, guys, so remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and I'll see you guys on the next video.